35 years in the crazy technology industry has really taught me one thing that really has stayed with me and that bites at me all the time. And that is that the more technology is out there, the more ubiquitous, the more prevalent, the more it's in the hands of people, the more the human dimension matter, the more people matter. Technology doesn't innovate yet. People do. Technology isn't disrupting any industry. People are. And it's important to realize that what technology is doing is enabling and amplifying the potential of people. The potential of people today is far greater than ever before. And it's really a function of two things, very simply. What you know and what you're connected to. 30 years ago, when I entered the workforce, my sources of knowledge were Dad, Encyclopedia Britannica, people close to me at work who knew something, and also what I took into my work life from my education. Today, we know that we all have access to endless sources of knowledge. In fact, I can't remember the last time my daughters asked me anything. Other than for money, perhaps, but anyway. But the second aspect of this is we're connected to so many people now. We don't even ask the question, is there media in the room anymore? Everybody's a media outlet. And it's that combination of what you know and who you're connected with that defines value. And we've seen today the enormous potential of what people can do when they combine their aspirations with technology. And fundamentally, all of that is about change. It's about changing things for the better, changing things to be in line with whatever it is you want the future to look like. And what I want to put to you today is that we have a massive mindset gap between the world we operate in and the potential of people and technology to do great things. And we confront it every day in our working lives and often in other aspects of our lives. And we need to talk more about this because we need to talk about the way we've been taught to think and the way that we need to start thinking. For a start, change is hard because change is human. Organisations don't change. Their people change. And we don't change without confronting our fear. There's fear, it's undeniable, it is there, yet we do so little to call it, confront it, and help each other through it. Fear's a good thing. A lot of the mistakes I've made in my journey were because I wasn't fearful enough. So it's not a bad thing all the time, but it has to be understood and overcome. If I say to you, there's an ambulance out the front of your house, you will fear the worst until you can account for every person you care about and know they're all right. That is human. That is not going to change. But what I hope can change is the conditioning that we've had and we will have as we enter work and we work together. You know, most of us, certainly my generation, were hired for their arms and their legs. Basically, do what you're told. It's kind of crazy right now because all of a sudden bosses are saying to their people, collaborate, create, innovate. And everyone's looking around going, are you serious? Like with who? What for? And it's worse than that because people like me got promoted into big jobs because we were in control, or looked like it. We didn't make mistakes, or we hid them well, often on occasions blaming others, not a good thing. And we knew the answer to questions we were asked, and we were really good at shuffling and getting away from trying to answer the question. So I would put to you that the mindset that dominates our world today, in people certainly of my generation and those that have been affected by those of my generation, is control-oriented, mistake-averse, know-it-alls. So I'm just interested, has anyone come across any of them in your working life? Are you one of them? That's the big question. I remember one experience I had with a know-it-all was around a change program at IBM when we were spinning out the PC business. This guy, he controlled all the central administration and finance functions, and I was negotiating with him to spin it out into a new division. Every meeting I had was just sucked the life out of me because this guy just knew the answer to questions I hadn't even asked yet. And he was telling me what I had to do and why I had to do it, and he couldn't have possibly known. But he knew it. He was a know-it-all, and I was lamenting with one of my peers about this guy. He's driving me crazy. Every meeting is agonising. It's painful. And I said, I could ask this guy a question about nuclear physics and he'd freaking know the answer. And my mate sort of looked away and looked down and took a moment, and he looked at me and said, Steve, I hate to tell you, he has a degree in nuclear physics. We have a dominant mindset that is a product of an industrial age past. And we need to acknowledge it and be more conscious of it, and we need to shift it. For me, that journey happened when I was disrupted. And I was disrupted when I became the CEO of 9MSN, the online joint venture that was founded in late 1997. And I was the CEO. I came into this joint venture that was well-backed and funded and supported by Microsoft and PBL, who are the then owners of Channel 9 and ACP magazines. And I came into that job with absolutely no knowledge of advertising, because I never sold it, and media, because I've never produced it. I was a computer sales guy by background. And I can remember coming into the job, and all the experts back then, by the way, the online ad market at that time was zero. Aside from Intel and some other progressive brands trying banner advertising, there was no online ad market at the end of the 1990s, just over 15 years ago. And I can remember the experts in media and the industries associated with all said, online advertising will never pay, banners don't work. And that was their belief. And I can remember sitting there with no experience looking at, or thinking about watching TV, watching an ad, it pays. Read a newspaper, there's an ad, it pays. I thought, why can't it work on a computer screen? It just didn't make sense to me. So that gave me, in a sense, some comfort in pursuing that dream or that journey. Well, last year, online advertising was over 40% of the total market, from nothing 15 years ago. And there was even some press this week about another media company writing off $1 billion worth of value as a result of what's happened and what's changed in the industry. But the big thing for me, the big lesson I learnt about mindset and mindset shift there, was that past success and knowledge was a killer. There's no question traditional media players were successful. They knew a lot, and they still do today. But their knowledge and their success got in the way of them being open-minded. And at the end of the day, the lesson there is it's much, much better in this day and age to be a learn-it-all rather than know-it-all. And you've got to be willing to let go of what you know and what got you to where you are. The second really big lesson for me in that experience was how important purpose is. Constantly revisiting why you do what you do, why it's relevant to those around you, how you add value. And it wasn't like that not that long ago. We would not consider a refresh of vision mission statements more than once every 5 to 10 years, usually when the company we're in hit real big problems. But today, you have to constantly question why you do what you do. And if it isn't relevant to people out there that you're relying on or trying to serve, then that's a big signal you need to pick up really quickly. At 9MSN, it was really a big lesson for me in the sense that we had an amazing environment in the company. We had people working in indoor-outdoor offices and, casual, and we had parties every Friday, and they were all innovating and creating to their heart's content, but things were not good. We were losing $3 million a month. The board was on my back about the fact that our service wasn't particularly flash. And actually, despite all the nice things about our work environment, we weren't particularly happy. There was tension. So I got everybody together in a room. Well, I was able to do that with 100 people. And I asked them one question: how happy are you working here? And the answer was 40% satisfied. 4 out of 10 was the score. There's 100 young people building stuff, having fun together, partying, enjoying a wonderful work environment. And it really took me aback that it was that bad. So I asked the question, well, what's wrong? And we spent the rest of the day talking about that, and it was one theme that really struck me profoundly, and that was, we don't know where we're going, so we don't know whether this company and the work we're doing is going to add up to anything. And we also don't know whether the effort we're putting in is going to be successful because we're doing so many things because our purpose isn't clear. And it really changed my thinking then. For the next 12 months, all I did was work with my team to really get clear about why we were there to exist and what our priorities would be. And we aligned around those. And it wasn't easy because we went from doing 10 things to doing 3 things. We went from doing 10 things badly to 3 things better. And we made a really harsh judgment about where we could win by adding real value to consumers who might use our service and also to advertisers. A year later, I did the same survey, and the survey score was 80% satisfied. And it stayed there for the next 10 years as 9MSN evolved to be the leading player at that time in the industry, and also a place that people who used to work there in that era still reflect on as being the best working environment they've ever worked in. And since then, I've been obsessive about this whole notion of being clear about your purpose and why you do things, but testing that and listening. And I think design thinking and agile, which are big trends in business today, are a reflection of the fact that if you're building anything without customer feedback today, you're deluded. The final thing that I learned was that mistakes are learning, that you cannot innovate, create, and progress without mistakes. Just think about this. There's not one thing you are good at today, not one that you're good at today that you didn't get good at by making mistakes. Look at the life of a young child. Their life is try, fail, learn. And that's the reality that we have to really embrace here. That the control orientation, the mistake aversion, and the know-it-all mindsets that really do still, in a sense, live in most of our social industrial structures have to change. They have to give way to a different approach, one that's connecting and caring, willing to try and fail, and constantly wanting to learn. It's a really big shift. Now, so what? What do I say to you? What I say to you is, as change agents, and you are, because you're here, you have to appreciate what you're confronting. You can't ignore it. You have to help people who think that way on their journey. And some of that is going to come with brute force, as it has in many industries where the change agents basically eat the lunch of those who don't change. But I also think that for many of you, the great things you want to do rely on working with people who do have power and authority in the traditional structures. So acknowledge it. The best thing that you can do is really to encourage those around you to consciously talk about how you think. You know, we are not what we believe. We are not what we think. We aren't. Beliefs and thoughts are chosen. They can change. I'm sure every one of you has changed a belief or a thought or a way you thought about something in your lives. We do. You are the little voice in your head that questions why you believe what you believe, that questions why you did what you did or why you behaved the way you behaved. And I think all of us have to listen to that voice more. You can call it mindfulness, which is a very significant movement. You can call it meditation. There's many different techniques. They don't all suit. You've got to find your way. My way now, fortunately, is that whenever I say, that's stupid, to something new, the little voice in my head goes, Steve, you've been wrong so many times. So many times. Go back, have another look, and make sure you really know what you're talking about. So that's one technique. Another technique is when you're in a meeting with someone, see if you can transfer yourself to and be an observer of yourself in that meeting and really see how that person's being affected by what you're saying and listen to your own words and see whether you're actually caring and connecting and really listening and learning from it at the same time as trying to get your point across. At the end of the day, there's enormous potential in all of us. And combined with technology, as you've seen today, there's almost no limitations that you can imagine. But I really believe we've got to understand the mindset challenge we face, individually and collectively. Talk about it, analyse it, get it out in the open. And I believe if we do that and you do that, you'll realise the enormous potential that is in each and every one of you. Thank you very much.